Hey, welcome students. In this lesson I want to go ahead and talk to you about the types of chemical reactions and just briefly give you a general introduction to the different types. There's generally 5 types of reactions that we want you to know for this particular section. Now there are more, but for right now we're just going to focus on 5 types, and let me go ahead and describe those to you. So the first type of chemical reaction that we're going to encounter is going to be one in which two things are combined. And so let me just go ahead and write that down for you. First one is when you have, for example, you've got a chemical A and it's reacted with chemical B or substance B, and these two combine and they form a compound called AB. Now this particular type of reaction is what we call a synthesis reaction. And the reason we call it a synthesis is because what you see here is that you've got two compounds being united or combined to form a new compound AB. And so that's what you're actually doing here. You're synthesizing a new compound. The second type of reaction that I want to introduce you to is going to be the type of reaction in which you have the product of AB, and essentially what happens here is you break them apart and you wind up with AB as their separate parts. Now obviously if you look at this very carefully, this is the reverse reaction of the first one, the synthesis, but this particular one, since we're taking A and B and we're taking them apart, this particular type of reaction is what we call a decomposition reaction. Okay? So this is a decomposition reaction. A third type of reaction involves when you have compound AB and reacting with some other element or substance C. And what we tend to do here is we tend to look at this and start asking ourselves, well, what are some of the items that I already know? Well, whenever you have a compound, the first atom is always going to be the positive atom. And so that means that the second atom, in this case B, is going to be the negative atom. Typically, atoms that exist on their own are going to be typically of a general positive charge or a zero charge, so they have none. But essentially what happens here, since we already know that like attracts like, opposites attract actually, what we're going to see here is that this C is actually going to come here and combine with the B, pulling it out from the equation and dispelling A. And so what you wind up having is CB plus A. And in this particular case, the A was actually replaced with AC. And so this particular type of reaction is what we call a single replacement. And naturally, you would have already guessed that a fourth type of reaction would be if I involve compound, for example, AB, I react that to CD, and knowing what we already know about charges, we know that the first charge is a positive for both of these atoms, and so that means that A here would want to come over and combine with a D, and the C here would want to combine with the B, giving us the following end product. We would have AD combining with CB. Notice the order of A and D. A in this particular case in the product side is going to be the positive part of the compound, and in the CB part, C is the positive charged part of the compound. And so since there were two replacements that occurred here, what we call this particular compound is a double replacement. Okay? And then the last one is a type that involves a hydrocarbon. And this reacts with oxygen, and what happens here is that you form a compound carbon dioxide plus water, and the hydrocarbon can be any hydrocarbon really. An example here would be, for example, if we take CH2, combine it with oxygen, we would have carbon dioxide as water as still the products. However, we do need to balance this equation out, but for generally this is the general format that it occurs, and this occurs in the presence of heat. And so we'll put the little diamond there at the very top. So these are the 5 types of chemical reactions that I would like you to know. be able to identify them and recognize them. And in the next couple of lessons, we're going to go in a little bit more in depth in each of these and give you some examples so you can see what they actually look like.